This is unboxing the Garmin Zumo XT2, which we have purchased in order to do a test on, and also because we've obviously got trips coming up. So let's do an unboxing, let's see what we get inside the box, and then we can look at the actual device itself, some of the features you get with it, and then we'll look at the installation and how we do it. So, first things first, the actual unit. Nice big 6-inch display, which is there. You can see it on the back, it's got the prongs for where it actually mounts to the bike. Very cool. We'll do this bit later. Then inside the box, whole load of goodies. So, zip ties or cable ties. Then we have the USB to USB-C cable. We have a fuse for when we're actually connecting it to the bike, if we need to, which we won't because we will connect it using the Hex Ezcan on the Pan America. Then you get the actual mount itself. So this is the bit that actually goes to the bike. It's got a ball mount, it's actually a ram mount, and then it's got a little plastic cover that goes over, which is obviously where the unit actually fits to, nice and secure, and then you can cover it up when you're not using the device itself. You also get the other part of the ball mount, which is the little holding arm piece, which you can see there. Then inside here, there's a little U-bolt and another bracket to connect it up to. So you've got options when actually connecting it to the bike, depending on your bike and what options you have for fixing. And then you have two terminal connectors if you're terminating directly to the battery. And then the bit that everybody loves, the destruction manual. So that's the box, completely emptied. Next, let's look at some of the features inside. First things first, we need to go away and download the Garmin Tread app, which is what's the kind of key part, but let's do the bit that everybody really wants to see. So satisfying. Hello, right, install time. So, I'm fortunate enough that I have this little bar on the Harley. Failing that, I would have looked to install it somewhere here, but the bars are quite thick on the Pan America, which makes it a little bit more trickier. So, thank heavens for this little bar, which I installed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take off my current quad lock, and then we'll look to get the mounting bracket and see how the mounting bracket fits, and then we'll worry about wiring and all that kind of good stuff. So, for now, let's go and start stripping off the current quad lock. Like that. So, in the pack you get two kits. You get this kit here, which is like a slightly longer screw with a spacer, and then you get a U-bolt style, right, which comes with its own little set of bolts. Okay, this longer set style is so that you can fit it into one of these, so that you can actually replace this part here and have that mounted there, and then it's got a slightly longer screw with a spacer. We're not fitting that, so we can ignore that. We're going to go for the U-bolt option, and on this bar. So the bracket's on and it's still kind of loose, but that's by design because we don't want to tighten it up until we're 100% confident that's exactly where it's going to go, and also whether we need to take the windscreen off possibly. So this is the actual unit that holds onto that. There's a little clamp that grips it and then pops it in there so that it's nice and tight. So what we need to do now is work out the wiring. So we're going to run from here, possibly down under here or down the side. We're going to have a look at that right now. So I've just taken the windscreen off just because it's a bit easier for access, and it's only 4 bolts, which isn't too bad. So we're going to fit that up there. We're going to run this cable down. There's a gap through this little compartment here, which is just a little bit of plastic, and it'll feed down the back of the screen, through between the forks, and then there's a little channel already there for the lights that we put in on this bike. So let's go and start running cables. So finally got all the cable run through, which was actually a little bit more tricky. It wasn't really tricky, it was actually just, you should have taken parts of this off, which is literally just a plastic fairing. But again, being typically male and typically stubborn, I thought I'm not doing that. So anyway, we're through. And then what we need to do is we need to connect a connector, which we've got over there, for the Hex Ezcan. Now, anyone that doesn't know what the Hex Ezcan is, we probably should have done a video long before now, but this is a great little piece of kit that plugs into the actual control bus of the bike itself. And then all you can do is then connect your own auxiliary stuff to the Hex, and then you plug in your laptop and then you can program it. So for example, the flashy lights at the front, I've got disco lights at the back, all that kind of good stuff is all controlled through the Hex Ezcan. It also controls your power, so that saves you having to break into the wiring loom on the bike in order to be able to cut the power. When you cut the power to the bike, it'll also cut the power to the sat-nav, so that's quite cool, and it saves a lot of time and a lot of hassle and any potential risk with you messing up the wiring loom. So what we'll do next is we'll connect up the solder for this, then we'll tidy up the cables and we'll check it actually powers up. And then if it does, we can then start to make good and finish up with some cable ties and tidying all the cabling up and stuff, and then put the bike back together. So let's get the soldering kit out. So we've taken a spare connector that we had for the Hex Ezcan, which you get them when you buy the pack anyway, and I have connected up the positive and the negative to the connector and soldered them on there. What I'll do is I'll tidy them up with a bit of insulating tape so that it's nice and neat, and then I've connected it up to the yellow circuit, which is on here, which I'll show you in a minute, and then I've connected up my laptop to the actual Hex Ezcan. So this is the Ezcan software, right? And you can see here, we've got a yellow circuit, which is what we've connected to. So when you select it, you get a whole set of options. You get heated gear, you can disable the circuit, you can have brake lights, left brake light, right brake light, an auxiliary port for lights. There's a whole rake of stuff you can have on there, but what we're going to do is just select accessory, okay? And then we click apply, and that'll default it here at 4 amps. Okay, now as far as I'm aware, the Garmin only draws about 1.6, so four's loads. Now if you then scroll down to the bottom, you'll see here there's this accessory part here, right? And obviously we need accessory power, and then there's a little timeout there which is 5 seconds, and that's when you turn the power off. It'll provide power for about 5 additional seconds before then cutting the power completely when you switch the ignition off. So really easy to set up, nice and simple, and that gives you full autonomy over the power and how you control the power to the accessory. Right, cool. So all we need to do is find the best position for this thing, okay? So, and the difficulty here is going to be the screen, right? Because that is going to be the tricky part. So, you need to get the balls in place. It's a tight fit, that. Oh, there you go. So, let's just... That's what she said, absolutely. So, I'm thinking, because obviously we still need to put the screen back on, right? So, if we take the actual Garmin unit itself and we clip it into place, which again you go in for the bottom, like so. That's where we need to, this is where we need to think about positioning in terms of where we actually seat the unit itself, because obviously we're going to have the screen on, which when the screen goes on, what I don't want is I don't want it to interfere with the actual... That's quite good there actually, it's not too bad. We've probably got about 2 and a bit inches at the back, and that's in the screen in its closest position. So yeah, that works. So let's take that off because we don't need that, and then let's fix this into position. Cool. So as you can see, we've cable tied and tidied up the cables. It's not my finest job, but it's as neat as it's going to get with it really running cables properly. We've got it's connected up to the Hex Ezcan. Now obviously we showed you the Hex Ezcan, the setup for that, and it working. I didn't test the connection, well, not on camera, but I tested it off camera, and I know it works. That's the first thing. I would always recommend that when you're testing stuff in Ezcan, just connect the cables to the connector, and then power it up. Make sure you've got everything set up on the software, and then just run it through. And if it's fine, then great. Then you can go and finish soldering and stuff like that. Just for the interest of showing you, I'm going to power up the bike. I need to power up. Oh, there you go. Up it comes. And you can actually see in that top corner, we've got power. Okay, so there's a little power icon there with the flash through it. So there you go. And we're off and running. Okay. When I switch the bike off, you'll see that the power dies on the bike. And then after 5 seconds, the power will die to the unit, and then we'll get the message to say we've switched to power. There you go, you can see it switched across. And then it says external power has been lost. The device will check for any updates and then switch off. And that's you preserving, it means you're not draining power for the battery when you don't actually have to. So that's it all connected. The only thing left to do, we've done all the cable tie work. We've made it all nice and neat. We just need to put the screen back together, make sure everything's sorted, and then that's it. Next thing to do is take out a little run and start testing some of the features, which we'll do a whole separate section on. This is just more about the install. Oh, and the one last thing, we've got little plugs here as well, to make it tidy and stuff at the back if need be. But we don't have a large amount of extra screw space because this bar that we have here is quite thick. But these are quite handy to keep, especially if you've got screws that may be protruding. They're nice for just covering up, and it just finishes off the look, makes it look the part. But we're not going to use those. So let's just cancel that, switch it off. It should have switched off itself, but there you go. It will eventually. Oh, no, don't do lap times. You don't need lap times. So that's us. Hopefully you see a little time lapse of us putting the bike back together, and then we're off and running. Hope you enjoyed it.